Well, tax season is just around the corner, and it can feel overwhelming.
Definitely, but they say that preparing for tax season is a lot like baking a sweet treat. That's what they say. It all starts with the right ingredients. So here to share the special ingredients you're going to need before filing is Chris Lucatordo, the Chief Financial Officer of Clearview. Chris, thank you for coming here, and thank you for bringing a cake.
Yes, definitely. Appreciate it. So we're going to walk through the process and how we get to that final product.
The cake.
Yeah.
All right.
This is fun.
And we're going to start with the recipe card, right?
Yeah, so the recipe card, really, that's the foundation to this whole process, right? So we're going to walk through each of the key steps there to get that your taxes filed for the year.
Okay.
So the first step, we'll talk about personal information, right? So a couple key decisions and things to gather there in the personal information section. Number one, what's your tax filing status going to be for the year? So some of the most common statuses that people elect, single, married, head of household. So those are the most common ones that are utilized. Once that's decided, you want to make sure you gather date of births, social security numbers for all those that are going to be included on the tax return.
Yeah.
Some of us have those memorized, some of us don't have those social security numbers memorized, right? So get that from a safe place if you don't have it memorized. And then also gather bank account info, right? We're going to use that at the very end of the process, but you want to make sure you have like your routing number, your account number in place, because at the very end, you're either going to get a refund or you're going to have to owe some money. So you want to be able to plug that in and have that readily available for the end of the process.
Oh, we want the refund, though.
That's
All
right, exactly.
So now we're talking about income here, and this is where the sugar and the flour all come into play.
That's right.
Yeah.
So we're getting into the heart of the cake making process now. So similar with, like you mentioned, the butter, the eggs, the flour, the sugar, we're going to relate that to the income. So really the core of the tax return. You think about what's some of the key components of that. For those employed, right, through an employer, your W-2 is really the key part of that.
Sure.
And that form you're going to receive by the end of January. So be on the lookout for that. You think about from the retiree perspective, right? You think distributions that you've received from, say, a traditional IRA, a pension, sometimes even you think of like a Social Security, that can be taxed as well along the way if you receive that during the year. So those are a couple items to think too from the retiree perspective. Interest income's another thing to think of too, especially in this rate environment where it's been a bit elevated compared to recent history. So you may be able to gain some interest income from savings, money markets, bank certificates. So that's something that's going to be included as part of your income.
You know that, yeah.
Yes.
Exactly. So look out for forms that relate to that you receive from where you've been saving those funds during the year. And then if you've been so fortunate, I have not been that fortunate in 2024 to have some prize or lottery winnings, then you would include that as well during the year. But
tell them about that too.
That's right, you have to do that. But I won't have to worry about that this year.
Yeah, neither will we.
No, neither will we. All right, I love the analogy you have going here, and the icing stands for something that we all love, something sweet. That's the deduction.
Yes.
That's right. So
If
this
you itemize, it can make a real difference.
The more, the better.
exactly. So this is the part where you have the income, but you want to reduce that taxable income because that means that's less tax that you have to pay along the way. So a couple of things to think about on the deduction front. Like you mentioned, that decision between standard and itemized deduction. So certainly worth working through that itemized deduction, especially if you're a homeowner, I would say too, because you're able to deduct real estate taxes that you pay. You're able to deduct interest if you have a mortgage that you pay during the year.
Right.
And also if you make some charitable donations during the year as well, you're able to include that as part of your itemized calculation.
And at the state level, you can really take advantage of some of that stuff.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So yeah, mainly talking about the federal, but on the state level, that's something to consider as well for sure. So that's sort of the first decision, I would say, on the deduction, standard versus itemized, working through that calculation. And then a couple other items I think about too. If you have a traditional IRA, this is where you get that tax break. You take that pre-tax there with you contributing to that. If you are a student, you have student loan interest, you can deduct that interest component there as well on the tax return. And then I'll think more on the credit side here for those working parents, guardians, if you're paying for childcare services so you can work throughout the year.
Oh, that's a big one.
Yeah, so you're paying for those childcare services. Think about what you've spent and gathered those figures during the year, right? And then certainly work through that calculation to see if you can get a tax credit, because that credit is essentially a dollar for dollar deduction from that final tax bill.
That's fantastic.
Whoa, that is
All right,
great.
we love it. You have educated us and you've made us hungry.
You have. And there's a cake down there, so we're going to
We
get
have the
to that.
final product.
Yes.
Our fork's ready. We want to say you can catch Money Monday every month right here on PTL, and make sure you head to the website to check out the Clearview Federal Credit Union's recipe card for filing your taxes, and we've got our forks ready.
Yeah, we do. All right.